Yeah, so you had the Marxists essentially. It's a little bit more complicated than this. There were other factions, groups as well, but roughly speaking, you had Marxists and anarchists who were together at what was known as the First International, the first international meeting of the International Working Men's Association, where representatives from unions and labor movements from around Europe got together to discuss how can we have international cooperation with each other to advocate socialism. How can we support each other if we go on strike, things like that. And at that meeting is where you had kind of a big showdown with more Marxist attitudes versus the more anarchist attitudes. And it was literally Marx and Bakunin were among the people who were literally there arguing with each other. And Bakunin and the anarchists essentially walked out on the meeting because they couldn't resolve those issues. So you saw a split right there in the two movements. So they are both socialist movements, but they have very strong disagreements on exactly how to organize and carry that out. And so Dan Chodakov has this essay, The Utopian Impulse, that kind of reviews the three kind of major points that they disagreed on. The first one is class analysis. Everyone agrees that class struggle is an important aspect of what's going on with capitalism and our movement towards socialism. Well, there's a disagreement on exactly who we need to be organizing in order to effectively create socialism. So Marx is focused on the industrial proletariat for the most part, workers, whereas anarchists had kind of this bigger view of not just kind of labor, but communities as a whole organizing. So there's a little disagreement on that. The second one is the organizational form. So when we're talking about organizing, what does that mean exactly? What sort of institutions and structures do people build so that they can cooperate and work together? And a lot of more Marxist organizations focus on more of a political party structure that tends to be fairly centralized. Whereas a lot of anarchists kind of reject that more centralized party approach and are much more interested in decentralized movements that are more focused on direct actions and kind of directly organizing workers to do things like strikes. And then finally, the third point is the role of the state, which, as we pointed out before, a lot of Marxists believe that some level of state, you can call it a worker state, is necessary to kind of facilitate a transition away from capitalism. Whereas the anarchist objection was that worker state could actually create, like one-party authoritarian states, and you'll never actually transition to a socialist society. You'll end up kind of stuck in this authoritarian thing. So the anarchists strongly objected to that as a organizing principle.